4 keywords.
I see dead people.
It was absolute carnage on NFL Survivor polls for week 9. We'll get you ready for week 10 in NFL Survivor polls, as well as DraftKings. On the main slate, we will give you our cash lineup and our favorite GPP plays, all coming up next. Hello, everyone. I'm Eric Lee.
And I'm Michael Wiley, and we're the Fantasy Football Consultants.
Michael, here we are, week 10. It's our last week for people to get into the comment section to qualify for our free-to-enter $200 prize pool contest, which is going to occur on week 12, 13, 14, and 15. So get into the comment section, your best takes for DraftKings main slate week 10, and give the reasons why.
Eric, we already have 11 winners to announce. Should we go ahead and give them a little shout out?
Hey, yes, we appreciate all 11 of you guys so much. You guys have been awesome this year.
Yeah, congrats to Robert, Apples, Timothy, G Monkey, Scott, Rocky, Brian, George and Laura, Fernando, and Dave. Hey, folks, don't forget, please smash that like button and share the video with friends. And if you haven't yet, hit the red subscribe button followed by the bell icon.
As always, you can use the timestamps if you only want to listen to our NFL Survivor content, because right now we're going into the studio and do a cash lineup on DraftKings. All right, Michael, here we are on the main slate for week 10. And when we look at the running backs, there are a lot of very intriguing players. You got McCaffrey, you got Kamara, Taylor's in a great matchup, Dalvin Cook, and normally we always say pay up for that top flight running back. Najee Harris is in a great spot. Is that what we're going to do this week?
Yeah, well, so I'll tell you, it's a weird week because of the COVID protocol for several teams, because of a few injuries that have just popped up. I do like Dalvin Cook a lot. That Chargers defense has bled the run. They basically are atrocious against the run. But you know, if we can save a few bucks for folks who are destined to have good weeks because of the situation in their at their team that obviously wasn't updated for DraftKings, then we should try and take advantage. So let's go way down to so Nick Chubb. You see him questionable there. He is pretty much a definite out from what I'm hearing, and that makes me like his replacement. And we saw what he did a few weeks ago. We saw what Nick Chubb did this last week, an absolute fantastic game. After a really tough week, I think what the Browns were reminded is they are a running team. The offense has to go through their backfield. This D'Ernest Johnson guy he's a stud. And you saw what he did in week 7. Against one of the best defenses in the league, who just absolutely mopped the floor with Dallas this last weekend. So yeah, he draws New England. New England is a favorite. It's in New England. So maybe the game script, to Eric's isn't to necessarily to Eric's liking, but it probably is to Eric's liking, his price tag. He will be involved in the passing game. He's going to get most of the touches with both Chubb and
Kareem Hunt is technically coming off IR, but everyone's saying he's not ready. So our expectation in this lineup is both Chubb and Hunt will be out. And guess what? When that was the case last week, that when Chubb went out in the middle of the game, Johnson got everything. He got all of the carries. Man, I like this price.
Yeah, so he may not have the same upside as Cook or McCaffrey, but he's half the cost. I mean, you just have to take advantage of that.
Speaking about half the cost and taking advantage of situations, for the second week in a row, we're going to play with that Buffalo backfield. But this time, it's Devin Singletary. And the reason why we're saying Devin Singletary is that it looks like Zach Moss is going to be out. He's currently in concussion protocol. He has to pass those 5 steps. If Moss is playing, I'm out on Singletary. But don't get it mixed up, folks. Even if Moss is out, he's still going to share carries. he's going to share carries with Allen because he is always going to take off, especially around the goal line. But Michael, he faces the New York Jets who cannot stop anybody. They gave up 31 to the Bengals, 45 to the Colts last week. Man, big pie here for the running game. He's a huge favorite this week.
Yeah, only issue here is, Buffalo Bills laid an absolute egg against, I don't know how it happened against Jacksonville. That will not happen again this week. I think Buffalo thought they could take a couple of weeks off with their schedule, and I guarantee you they will not make that same mistake this week.
Yeah, look what the Jets have done against running backs this year. So, all right, dead last, folks, if you didn't know that there are 32 teams. All right, so Michael, by playing the game of kind of the free square running back, we saved a ton of money with our two running backs, which allows us to spend up at wide receiver. What we're going to do?
That's right. So let's go to the very top. Let's find a couple of guys who are in a PPR league. They are PPR reception hogs. Maybe not quite as expensive at Adams, who might not actually have Aaron Rodgers at the helm, depending on this COVID debacle that's going on in Green Bay. So I really like Keenan Allen up against the Minnesota Vikings, who have been really bad against the pass. He is he gets the touches, maybe not quite the same upside as Mike Williams, but you've seen what he's done the last few weeks. He is getting he's getting all those receptions. He's now getting yards. I think it's about time he gets in the end zone, but even when he doesn't, look at the kind of points he puts up.
Michael, I've watched a couple of the Charger games these last couple of weeks. Something's wrong with Mike Williams. He is not healthy. And it is correlated to him just not performing. Now, some week when he gets healthy, he'll start to go off. But until that happens, I'm not comfortable putting Mike Williams in our lineup. And therefore, I'm really comfortable putting Keenan Allen in the lineup. So I like this. He is fifth most average in targets, but he's really even better than that because guess what? Cooper Kupp and Hill are not on the main slate. Ridley's not on the NFL. And as you said, Adams, you're not sure who his quarterback is. So arguably, maybe that moves him up to number one.
Yeah, and a similar guy who I think has an even a better situation. That's Deontay Johnson of Pittsburgh. So he was the guy who got the throws to him when the game was on the line, and Claypool was in the game. Juju's still out. Claypool looks like he may be out. And even though the Pittsburgh Steelers should be in control of this game, Detroit knows how to put up some points. And so, the Steelers will have, we saw what they did against the Bears. They barely squeaked that one out. They're going to have to throw the ball like they typically do.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys haven't figured it out, if you're not a long-term viewer, both Michael Wiley and I are little fanboys of Deontay Johnson. When we had all three wide receivers, we always said, look, as long as the guy can stay healthy, because he was getting hurt at the beginning of a bunch of games last year, he's clearly the number one wide receiver. And as you pointed out, they might not have, definitely they won't have one in Juju Smith-Schuster. They might not have the other in a game where they have a great implied total. Nice selection here for Deontay Johnson. And we're going to just continue to load up on wide receivers at $6,300. I want to talk about the clear number one wide receiver in an excellent situation, Michael Pittman Jr., going up against the Jacksonville Jaguars. This I don't know what happened with Buffalo, but this is not a good secondary. And Michael Pittman is the clear guy that Carson Wentz has an absolute connection with him. And the Colts offense has really been rolling the last couple of weeks. All right, what about tight end, Michael?
So tight end priced low because, or a little bit lower than some of the top guys because of coming out of the COVID-19 protocol is Noah Fant, who you guys have heard us talk about him before. He is a wide receiver playing the tight end position, and he's going up against Philadelphia, which has been the worst defense against tight ends. He's been, I think, kind of the go-to guy when he's been available. And so, yeah, he hasn't been consistently scoring 20 points a week, but no tight ends really do. And so at this price tag, again, here we are saving a few dollars, but for guys that we think are going to score have really high floor points.
Yeah, they've got all their weapons back now, Michael. They've got both Sutton and Judy. So there's going to be a little bit more competition. But like you said, the Eagles are better on the edges with Slay as one of the shutdown corners. They don't do as well as against tight ends. And it's a good environment. He's a home favorite, 24 implied total. So for 4,300, sounds good. Now, I am going to offer a pivot play, though. If for some reason you need salary relief, even more than $4,300, I just want to point out at $3,500 is Dan Arnold. The guy has been super consistent since we said a couple weeks ago. This guy's the number one tight end on the Jacksonville Jaguars. He runs plenty of routes. He's on plenty of snaps. And guess what? Look what he has done in 3 of the last 4 games when the Jaguars aren't scoring any points. They haven't hit double digits in the last 2 weeks. And yet he has still performed. What happens if they actually put up some points against a Colt defense secondary that is below average? So I like this as a pivot play if you need the salary relief.
Yeah, and thus far we've been saving money. We've been doing that so we can get a good flex and also a good quarterback. You guys know what we're going to do at the defensive spot because that's what we always do. So you could save a little bit of money at quarterback and try and go for someone like perhaps Cook for this flex spot, but it would be tough. You'd really have to sacrifice on quarterback. So we have an idea what to do at the flex spot that allows us to get Dak Prescott at quarterback. And so that's who we like this week with his matchup. Go towards the top, if you would there. Dak going against Atlanta, who, offensively had a good week, but still looked pretty vulnerable on the defensive side. Almost gave up that game to New Orleans after dominating. Almost pulled the Atlanta Falcons, but somehow they didn't. They ended up pulling out the win. Now, Dak had a pretty rough start this last week. It was another one of these games. I mean, Denver looked really good on the defensive side. Dak looked cold, and he's cold because he was, coming off of bye week and injury week. But he came on strong towards the end. Maybe it was also because of this situation. He'll get his points, and Atlanta is not the same defense as Denver, of course.
Yeah, I think does he get Michael Gallup back this week? I believe.
I believe that's correct.
Yeah. Another weapon to throw to. So I'm surprised that his price has dropped this way against, because Atlanta is not a scary defense to go up against.
No, so the over under on this game is the highest, I think, this week at 54.5, them having an implied total of 32 points. So, it bodes well for a good offensive performance there. And we still have dollars with Dak to get a strong flex play for a guy who's basically a wide receiver in the backfield. That's Cordero Patterson at $6,600. Take us down a few bucks. Dallas defense is one of the stronger defenses against the run, but Cordero Patterson, especially with Calvin Ridley out, is kind of everything right now for the Atlanta Falcons. And look what he's done all year long. His worst week, other than save week 1, has been 14 points. He is putting up fantasy points as much as anyone this year, and I think that's going to continue with Calvin Ridley out. What do you think?
Yeah, and it matches that Atlanta's playing well. So why change the formula? He matches or beats Mike Davis on the ground in the amount of attempts that he gets. And boy, is he heavily involved in the passing game, which you really like, especially on DraftKings. All right, so with Patterson, that leaves us a whopping $2,700 for a defense. And normally we're thinking down here, Jets, Washington, Jaguars. Oh, those are all awful. But You know who's not awful at all at $2,600, who can afford, is the Tennessee Titans. 23 sacks in 9 games, and look what they've done in 4 of the last 5 games, because their defense has been really on the attack, making some big plays. And he faces a New Orleans team, Michael, that I'm just not sold on this offense.
No, this is clear. This is clearly stale pricing, right? It's based on the fact that the Titans defense was bad coming in, had a bit of a rough start. They looked really good against the Rams this last week. Like you say, New Orleans is a bit of a pretender on the offensive side. For me, this is the clear choice at the defense based on how many dollars we have left.
Yeah. Bottom line, at this price, to get a home favorite defense that is playing a suspect QB, I like it. So we'll put them in for $2,600, and that's our cash lineup. Let's take a look at our favorite GPP stack.
So the play we like this week in DraftKings based on pricing, we've already mentioned it, is Prescott to Lamb at the wide receiver spot, who is the receiver who gets the most targets, running it back with either Kyle Pitts or Patterson, as we mentioned, like Kyle Pitts a lot this week as well, again, because of the Calvin Ridley situation. I think Pitts is finally blossoming like he should. Couple of throws that could have gone his way that went elsewhere in this last game if you watched it closely. So he's getting open. So I like this for the pricing versus some of the other situations that are challenged because of a quarterback who's out or because a wide receiver who's injured.
And a great game to attack. The over-under, like we talked about, is 54.5, by far the highest on the main slate. So that's our best GPP stack. All right, let's talk Survivor. And Michael, wow, week 9. You know what? If you've been watching closely, folks, to all of my comments about NFL Survivor for the last 2 weeks, I've got nothing right. With the exception of one thing. 2 weeks ago, this is what I said. I am telling you, folks, don't get too cocky. The upsets, they are coming. It always happens. And Michael, the upsets have come. Last week, Cincinnati loses to the Jets. And this week, Buffalo loses to Jacksonville. Dallas gets upended by Denver. And New Orleans loses to Atlanta. Man.
Yeah, and not to mention the Rams game and the Steelers almost losing to the Bears. I mean, it has been, the any given Sunday that we all know about. And, there could be more to come. But I really feel like some of the more solid teams will start to figure a few things out and not look ahead like the Buffalo Bills did this last week. Really, really tough loss for them.
Yeah, our poll, which started with over 250 active participants, is now down to just 19. So I know a lot of those folks out there probably have had their polls thinned, but now is the key moment. It's going to make or break whether you bring home some cash. So let's go through it. Week 10, what are the top picks we think you guys should be considering? Starts off with Buffalo once again at the top of the list, 13-point favorites at the New York Jets. The Colts are 10.5-point favorites at home against Jacksonville. Arizona, 10-point favorites over the Carolina Panthers. Tampa Bay, 9.5-point favorites coming off a bye at Washington, who's also coming off a bye. Pittsburgh and Dallas are both 9-point favorites, both at home against Detroit and Atlanta, respectively. And Baltimore, 7.5-point favorites, even though they're traveling down to Miami. Whew. So we got a lot of big favorites here, Michael, as opposed to where we have in the past. And because of that, I will make a comment and I'll let you agree or disagree. Because we have so many big favorites, if you somehow still have Buffalo, Arizona, and Tampa Bay, I would save them. I would not use them this week because we've got other games that look pretty good and they have, all of them, a large future value.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. All of these favorites on paper look like they're solid favorites, right? I mean, Tampa Bay coming off a bye. Now Washington is as well, but Tampa Bay coming off a bye and a loss, that wasn't expected. Pittsburgh, come on, playing against the worst team, the only team that hasn't won all year long. And even Baltimore.
I noticed you were almost said worst team and then changed it to all year long. Who's the worst team in football? We both said Jacksonville last week, and then they upset Buffalo.
Yeah, no, actually, I don't know who the worst team is. I mean, record-wise, it's clearly Detroit. Their defense has been atrocious, but we've said the same thing about the Jets defense. We've said the same thing about Jacksonville at points. Right now, I think of all the teams, the one that's playing the worst is Carolina. They've just looked so bad on the offensive side. They can't put up points. And so against a team like Arizona, who's, clearly capable of putting up points at home,
they should get a fully healthy, fully used Christian McCaffrey. And I think he can really help that offense and hopefully help Sam Darnold, who's just, after a hot start, has really looked bad these last few weeks.
Yeah, no, I think he needs to sit down. Right. We've seen that happen before where a quarterback just needs to take a break and watch someone else play from the field. And so that's what I think really needs to happen there.
Did you notice in New York, they Robert Saleh said, "Oh, Zach Wilson isn't quite ready yet, so we're going to go with Mike White." Come on.
Yeah, no, it's probably the best thing that could have happened to him. So,
yeah,
there's not a game in here that I'm afraid of. I agree with you, like for sure. If you've come this far, save Buffalo, Arizona, and Tampa Bay, because there are some weeks where you won't have so many options.
Okay, so that if you guys are all on board with that, that narrows down the choices to Indianapolis, Pittsburgh, Dallas, or Baltimore. So look, I've already told you guys what my plan was weeks ago, which is to utilize the Indianapolis Colts this week. But Jacksonville beat Buffalo. Does that change my opinion? No. Indianapolis is coming off a mini bye. And so they really have only a small future value. Week 13 at Houston. But I think I go with Indianapolis. I'm more confident that the Colts are going to win this game, actually, than any of the other four teams that we just discussed, Pittsburgh, Dallas, and Baltimore. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I mean, Jacksonville didn't put up points. They looked really good on the defense side, and they had a good game plan against Buffalo. I don't know how they can do that 2 weeks in a row. Indianapolis, obviously is now going to come in wise to the fact that Jacksonville can be a decent team or a good team. So for me, that's the first choice. And actually, for me, the second choice of these four, if again, we're not talking about Buffalo, Arizona, or Tampa Bay, would be Baltimore. I just think Atlanta looks too good on the offensive side, and Dallas laid an egg. And I can't get comfortable with Pittsburgh's offense.
So, all right, let's talk about each of these games. Let's first talk about Baltimore, 7.5-point favorites at Miami. Surprisingly, as good as Baltimore is, they really don't have much future value. And Michael, how bad is this Miami team? I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, so bad they don't know which quarterback that they want to play, right? And I think that's part of it. And I think part of the reason they didn't put up many points this week was because Jacoby Brissett was at the helm. But
and Devontae Parker's now on IR, one of their key weapons, who was looking pretty good. That is intriguing as a possible second option. Let's talk a little bit about that Dallas Atlanta game. One interesting little twist in this game is the Dallas Cowboy defensive coordinator, which is Dan Quinn, who was last year the Atlanta head coach who got fired. He certainly knows Matt Ryan and what makes him comfortable and what makes him uncomfortable. But man, do you have some doubts after Dallas's play last week?
Yeah, I didn't really understand Dallas's offensive game plan, but part of it was Dak Prescott not making throws. So I would hope that now he's a week removed from the rust, But Atlanta's offense is very capable. So yes, their defense is poor. This will be a high scoring game, and I just, they're picked to win by 7 or 8 points. But I don't really, or I guess 9's right there in front of me. I don't know how I feel about where Dak Prescott is right now after the bye week and after the injury.
And finally, Pittsburgh, 9-point favorites at home against the winless Lions. If rest matters, Detroit is coming off a bye, and Pittsburgh played on Monday night. So Detroit certainly has had a lot of time to prepare. Obviously, I think everybody knows how close Detroit has come to winning in a couple of games against some decent teams, including Baltimore. I know you just don't trust Pittsburgh. What is it? Is it about their offense? They've had some injuries to their wide receivers.
Yeah, it's been Roethlisberger, right? He's just not the same guy that he used to be. His arm strength's not the same. He can't make buy time like he used to because he just doesn't have the same mobility not that he had a lot of mobility in the past. Yeah, I think they're doing a better job using the rookie running back in the backfield. But they didn't handle Justin Fields like I would expect their defense to do. Are they going to be able to do that? I think to Goff. Yeah, I think they can bottle up Goff, but the Detroit offense is much better than the Bears offense in terms of weapons out in the field, and they put up points. So Pittsburgh's not going to score 35 points ever against Detroit.
Will Detroit stop Najee Harris?
Yeah, no, I think as long as they have a nice balanced run pass approach, Najee Harris is going to get his 100-yard game, and that's going to keep Detroit from scoring a lot of points. That with plus Pittsburgh's defense. But 15-10 and 18-14 games are not comfortable games to bet, to pick on.
All right, since we're both out and we're just trying to help people out there, let's give our gold, silver, and bronze picks. Okay, so my gold pick, my number one pick this week is the Indianapolis Colts.
Same
yours?
Here.
I'll let you go first for the silver.
All right, then it's the Baltimore Ravens against Miami Dolphins.
Yeah, I'm looking at that. Yeah, I'm gonna switch it up. Can't always agree. I'm gonna go with the Pittsburgh Steelers against Detroit. I don't think that this is where Detroit gets its first win.
And then if you go with the Browns. Go ahead.
Oh, I'll follow you and go Baltimore as my bronze pick.
Yeah, well, if I had comfort with Pittsburgh, I would have definitely made them my bronze. But I'm actually going to avoid both those Pittsburgh and Dallas games and pick for my bronze the Buffalo game. Buffalo's not going to lose to the Jets after losing to the Jacksonville Jaguars. All
right, everybody, we are so proud and happy to announce that we are going to be doing a subscriber appreciation week a little early because we're so thankful to all of our FFC community. We are going to do subscriber appreciation week on Thanksgiving week, and we have a whole lot of great things planned. So please smash that subscriber button if you haven't yet and hit the bell icon. Until we see you for week 11, take care, everybody.
Stay safe.
Check one of the more recent videos that we did. They're on the screen.